Hey guys, welcome to day 148 of New Zealand's biggest gap year, where a couple of years ago, Robin and I did 365 activities in 365 days all across New Zealand. And in this episode, it takes us to Milford Sound, where we do an amazing kayaking tour. And at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you some of the comments and the questions that you guys had the first time around when this video was published, just to give you some extra travel tips about doing kayaking in New Zealand. Alright guys, I'll see you at the end of the video.
Oh my god, can you believe that this morning it's not raining in Milford Sound? So we get to actually experience the great outdoor with the team from Rosco's Milford Kayaks, and we're gonna go right in the middle of Milford Sound. We meet our guide Callum at the kayaking base in Deepwater Basin, and the first thing that he does is giving us heaps of layers because it's a really cold morning in Milford Sound today.
We are getting some of the funkiest gear we have ever got from a kayaking company. We are getting some super warm thermal layers with very lovely stripes on them, super colourful. We're also getting kitted up with a splash jacket and a life jacket as well, topped off with some wacky hats. Once we are in our super funky kayaking attire, we're heading outside with Callum to get some quick paddling lessons before heading onto the waters of Milford Sound.
Now you guys are on your own. You've got a map. Enjoy.
The tour that we're going on this morning is the Morning Glory Tour, which means we get into the Sound just at sunrise, and it's one of the more adventurous tours that they do in Milford Sound. A lot of paddling involved, and that's why we are in double kayaks today, so we can get more power behind the paddle.
Although it is a pretty cold morning right here in Milford Sound, we are getting warm real quick because we have to put a lot of effort in kayaking here. Very interesting fact, in Milford Sound there is a freshwater current right above the sea current, meaning that basically our paddles are only staying in fresh water. We're not really touching the sea water, but that means that the current is really strong and that we have to paddle really hard to get where we want to go. Right out of the gate, we are learning heaps from our guide Callum. He knows everything about all the local geological features like Simbad Gully or Sterling Falls, and he's taking the time to tell us a lot of information. It really feels that we are taking a long time to go through all the places and get to embrace all of them. It does not feel rushed whatsoever. But the main feeling of the whole tour is the grandeur of Milford Sound. Being on such a tiny kayak so close to the water, surrounded by those towering peaks, is so humbling. The whole scale of the place is so amazing. Plus, it feels also like a super intimate tour because it's just us, the water, and the shore of Milford Sound. It's really an awesome experience.
Another thing that Callum is telling us about Milford Sound is the dwarfing effect that Milford Sound has, especially when you're kayaking. Everything is so tall and so big around us that it's really hard to understand the scale of things and the distance between our kayak and the mountains ahead of us. Callum is saying kayak towards this waterfall, which really doesn't seem that far away, but we are kayaking for quite a long time to get there. But once we get right underneath those mountains, we feel so small. The highest mountain here is Mitra Peak, which is around 1,700 meters. And waterfalls are just cascading right over the top of us. It's really amazing. I can't stop taking photos. Speaking of waterfalls, we are heading towards the most famous waterfall in Milford Sound, which is Sterling Falls. And this falls at 151 meters, which is 3 times higher than Niagara Falls. And usually on trips in Milford Sound, you see boats going underneath this waterfall. And then when Callum says that we should go underneath that waterfall in our kayak, we think he must be kidding.
But no, the man is serious. He really wants us to push super hard and try to go as close as we can of the waterfall. But obviously we get pushed right back toward the ocean. There is no way you can get anywhere close to the waterfall in a kayak just with the strength of our arms. We are now braving the waves of the Sounds toward another really well-known point of Milford Sound. It's Seal Rock. This is where one of the massive seal colony of the area is residing, and Callum tells us that usually in this kind of on and off rainy weather we have heaps of chance to see them right on the shore, very close to where we're gonna be. And the idea that we're going to be meeting New Zealand first seal face to face is enough to get the whole group to push super hard. We end up paddling as hard as we can and get to Seal Rock in no time. Right there we see heaps of seal lazing on the rock. Some of them are still soaking wet, so we know they've just been fishing and they must have full belly. But because we don't want to be disturbing them too much, we are staying in a very reasonable distance, checking them out from afar as much as they are checking us out.
Although the kayaking part of our tour is soon to come to an end, Callum says we do have time to get up close and personal with one more waterfall. So we go full speed ahead, right under the spray, getting ourselves a glacial facial, and it's just so much fun getting right underneath this waterfall. This Morning Glory tour is meant to be a tour all the way to the end of Milford Sound where it meets the Tasman Sea. But because there is some strong weather coming our way, the swell is getting higher, Callum suggests that we take the water taxi now halfway through Milford Sound back to base. So we are getting picked up by the water taxi where our kayaks are being loaded on top and we are getting into the dry shelter of the boat.
Jumping from a kayak right onto the water taxi is actually quite a challenge, but the entire group is making it into the water taxi in no time. We must all have some kind of circus background. To be quite honest, with our stripy leggings and our funky hat, we all look like a circus troupe. From there, it's a really short boat ride back to the Milford Sound shore. We are going through the whole sound and it only takes us about 10 minutes in the boat, while it took us over 2 hours on the kayak. It's impressive that we had no notion of the scale for the entire morning. It was an amazing experience.
Alright guys, let's take a look at some of the questions and comments you guys had when we put this video up on YouTube for the first time. Alright, Rushik says, the dance was really cool, Robin and Laura, haha. Yes, we do like to do a bit of dancing while we're waiting. Usually more to warm yourself up in the early morning. So we also have a comment from Tusha saying, hello, great work. Firstly, great to see such an informative channel. I wanted to ask, I wish to come to New Zealand in October and I have heard a lot about kayaking in lakes and those picturesque shots. I have never done kayaking ever before, but I wish to do or at least try to learn. Is there any kayaking for beginners, or as a noob, can I still go for kayaking and still be good with it? So the really good thing about pretty much all kayaking tours in New Zealand is that they treat everyone sort of coming onto the tours as if they are doing it for the first time. So they'll give you a full sort of tuition session on how to paddle, the most effective ways of paddling. And also, as you can see from this tour where we have double C kayaks, anyone that might be a little bit less, able to sort of kayak on their own, or maybe just would rather go with a guide, you could basically go in the kayak with the guide, and that is so much easier to do the tour. But even if you're a couple, and Robin and I don't really have that much kayaking experience, we've only really done kayaking in a tour setting like this, so we're by no means experts at kayaking, but we were more than able to do this tour pretty easily. And that's pretty much what it's like in all kayaking tours in New Zealand. You'll always have a guide to sort of, guide you, to help you kayak and give you pointers and tips. It's really not that hard. So I hope you found that useful, and that extra travel tip useful at the end. If you do want to know more advice on where you can go kayaking in New Zealand, we have various different articles on nzpocketguide.com going over all the amazing kayaking lake tours, the sea kayaking tours, even the kayaking river tours. We have tons of articles and information on NZ Pocket Guide, so be sure to check that out. Alright guys, I will see you in the next episode.